Have you ever drawn heads and thought, why does this look so weird? Well, I have been there, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to properly draw heads using the Loomis method. Of course, the first thing we have to start with is every artist's biggest enemy, the circle. Don't draw an oval. It has to be a somewhat good circle, otherwise it will look off later. If you're drawing digital, then you are lucky, because most drawing softwares got a feature you can do perfect circles with, although it is better to learn drawing circles without this tool. Well, once you have drawn this circle, we will get to the next part, and this usually tends to be the most complicated one, since you can mess up a lot. But don't worry, I will tell you what to do so you don't have to find out how it works on your own. If we look at a somewhat perfect human face, we will notice a pattern. If you measure it out, it is actually split in thirds. But what do we do with this knowledge now? Well, it's really simple. Just think about it. If a face is split in thirds, and if we lay a circle on top of it, we still have the lowest third missing. That's why we have to draw an oval that is about 2/3 of the entire circle. This oval cuts off a part of the circle because a human head usually is not completely round. This would just look weird. Now is the time where you must be careful, since getting the size wrong could mess up the proportions. Also, this is the first stepping stone to getting the perspective of the head right. So take your time with this, and the rest will fall to your way easily. Also, this oval is on the other side too, but depending on the angle you're drawing the head in, you might not be able to see it. The next thing to do would be to draw a center line. This has to be as parallel as possible to the oval you drew before. Now, if you look straight up front to a person, this line will be straight. Now, we will split the oval we drew in half and draw in our brow line. The brow line has to make sense, so splitting the oval like that and drawing the brow line like that is not going to cut it. For the angle of it, you will either have to look at your reference or use a tiny bit of your brain. Now we will establish the hairline and the nose line. Both of them have to be parallel to the brow line we drew in earlier. And please don't let it dip like that at the end. I used to do that, so don't make the same mistake, please. Those lines have to be parallel to each other till the end. Now, we are still missing the last third, but don't worry, this is very simple to establish. Remember that our oval was about 2/3 in size and we split it in half earlier? Good. Now we will just have to draw a line in a 90-degree angle to the line we split the oval in half with. And we just have to draw a parallel line to this one originating from the brow line. Since the face is usually straight, you shouldn't bend this line, except you draw someone with an insanely recessed jawline, but I don't think this will be the case, so yeah, don't bend it. Keep the line straight and parallel to the 90-degree one. Now, the nose line is the end of your 2/3, and the next thing to do would just be to replicate the length of the 90-degree line on the end of the nose line. Now we will draw the chin, which also has to be parallel to the brow line. Then we will just go down a bit on the 90-degree line and connect one end to another. We will do the same for the other side, and depending on the angle, you may not even see this, as it's the case here. Then we will just have to connect it up to the brow line. Now we got our basic head shape down, and we can move on to discuss the basic features of the head. Starting with some planes, we will begin with the flatter ones, which usually are around the cheeks and on the forehead. We could indicate this by drawing in guides like this one. This starts at the point where these two lines meet and ends at the start of the chin. The forehead is mostly curved a little bit. To simplify it, you could even draw it somewhat flat, but not all of it. It goes from straighter to rounder, extending to the edges. But for planes in general, I would recommend you to just Google face plane 3D model and choose one. Now we will have to draw in the basic features of the head. So starting with the nose doesn't just start instantly from the brow line. First, it has sort of an inverted dip inside the face, and then after that, the nose starts. Now, of course, in this angle, the nose is protruding outwards because it is not flat. Also, the tip of the nose shouldn't be on the nose line because that is where the base of the nose sits. Then you will just have to connect the dots and you have done the basic volume of a nose. If you struggle with knowing where the corners of the nose are, then I can tell you that in most cases, it is between the corners of the plane dipping inside the face, except if you draw a really big nose, then this doesn't really apply. Then we will start with the mouth. For the mouth, we will have to split the last third into thirds, but this depends on the size and position of the mouth. You could also split it in half. So how do we draw a mouth now? For drawing the mouth, I usually use the method of Cynic's design. Shortly said, you have to think about the mouth as a three-dimensional shape and then draw it. But for that and even drawing an enemy, you should check out the Anatomy Quick Tips series of Cynic's. Now we move on to the eyes, and honestly this is something Cynic's can describe better than me again, since he also goes over the colors that gather around the eyes, etc. To make placing the eyes easier, you should split the space between the brow line and the nose line in half, and that is usually where your eye sockets land. Now you have to place the eyes at about the middle of the eye sockets, but this depends on the person. Overall, you could try to use those proportions, but remember that humans differ so much from another. You can use those proportions as rough guidelines, but you will need to change them up a bit if you try to draw from a real human reference. No matter what, the most important thing with drawing is practicing. Don't forget that. I thought I understood the process too back then, but when I drew, I produced things like this. And only now I can draw decent faces because I practiced. Also, I can recommend the tutorials of David Finch, since I think he explains the head and all of its components way better than I can at this time. I hope this tutorial could help you a bit, and I wish you a wonderful day.